Whoa, hi. Is this my first time since getting this haircut that we've done cinema bias?
Yes,
Oh
it
my
is.
god. How dare you? You have not even mentioned my hair yet, Alex.
Well, it's for I honestly one I did tweet at you when I did
Fair.
see the hair. I did, and also like we both know. I mean, like it's pretty rockin' awesome. It like I've definitely there's very few times where I look at a haircut and I'm like it fits.
It
Like the
works,
personality,
right?
it fits the person. Like sometimes like the and for some people hair wears the person, and then other
Mhm.
people like it just doesn't match. But with you, it 100% fits. It
Yeah.
just works.
And I'll tell you something,
Mhm.
I was worried because I was like, once I wash it at home, it's not going to look good. But guess what? It still looks awesome. I'm not even going to tell how many times I've watched that Cruella DeVille trailer. Let's talk about cinema bias. We're going to be
Oh,
talking today about Superman 2, The Donner Cut. But first, guys, it's our credit sequence. And
oh, that's such a nice little credit sequence. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I'm Alex Mack, a part of the Cinema Bias crew, and we're going to be chatting not necessarily one of the most controversial superhero films of all time or comic book movies of all time, but it's definitely a movie with a lot of context for
yeah,
sure.
there's
Mhm.
this is a movie with two directors, or like technically. I mean, not technically. I guess really it has two directors, but there's only one director that got released theatrically, and we decided to go with the other version of this. Now, you, Alex, have seen both versions now, right? You've seen Donner and Lester. I've
Yes,
only
I
seen
have.
Donner. But first, why don't we get a little into what the show even is?
Well, this is a very complicated show if you're new around the cinema bias.
Yikes.
It's very, very, very complicated. Here at Cinema Bias, we dive into our movie biases. So what the heck does that mean? Growing up and watching movies and being part of pop culture the way we are, we grow up having certain biases for or against certain genres, directors, actors, whatever it may be. And this show is all about breaking down those biases, shutting those right the fuck up, and being like, no more biases, not today, because it's all about expanding our movie horizons. Drew, would you like
Mm-hmm.
to add anything to that?
Except when it comes to positive movie biases, like how I saw Jurassic Park in theaters 13 times because I thought I could marry Dr. Ian Malcolm.
And
We can
okay,
get into
so
that one day.
true. Like, let's face it, we always wanted to like, oh,
Oh
everything.
my god, I want to be the next ex Mr. Malcolm. Ugh, Dr. Malcolm.
Um, oh,
Guys, the Streamlabs we have is a thing, and it is alive, and it is available. It's fine. It's streamlabs.com/VideoDrew. One word. You can see this little tip bar we have. Oh, I put like for some reason I put the quota really high, but don't feel like that needs to be hit. We're just having fun here. You can also send in tips during super chats and whatever. I know it's been sort of a crazy week. It's been sort of a crazy month and a crazy year, but anything is appreciated. And that's all I got to say about that.
absolutely. Now, for example, though, we haven't really talked about some of our personal biases that have been broken down or reaffirmed since
Mm-hmm.
starting the show. So, real quick, before we dive into the movie in particular, we're going to be talking about today. What is one example of a movie bias that you had confirmed or completely obliterated since starting the show?
Since starting the show, I mean, I didn't think I was gonna like a movie like Little Princess, and not because it's a bad movie. It was incredibly well made, but I just don't like those period dramas that are about like precocious, like female heroine stuff. Although I did like the new Little Women when I finally saw it. I just, there's something about it like that feels a little bit like my friends from elementary school that were like really too precocious and would always be like, "Oh, let's pretend we live in Victorian times," or like our American Girl dolls. And I always thought it was so boring. And so it turns out that I really just have like this anger in my heart that whenever I see like precocious children set in like 18th century garb, I get angry.
It's just, let's face it, that period in particular is a very, not just difficult time for women, but obviously children. Anyway, that's a weird time, industrial age.
But I did love, on the positive side, I loved, and I did not think I was going to love Spirited Away, like an anime movie.
Mhm.
But I only this year have started getting into anime. I watched my first anime show, Attack on Titan. I'm finally like getting into it a little bit. Some of it's really hard. Like Akira is hard for me to digest, but like Spirited Away was awesome. What about you? What about you?
I have discovered personally, I have fallen in love with some really weird horror movies.
Yeah, tell
Like,
me about it, girl.
Like man, I can't tell you how many times I rewatched like 2012.
That's a disaster movie.
Yeah, that is like that Chainsaw Massacre. I've seen the original
Love
now like
Chainsaw
four
Massacre.
or 5 times since watching it for the first time over the
Which
holidays.
one do you like the best out of all the chainsaws?
Well, I love the okay, probably the second one.
The second one, I love the Dennis Hopper one. I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D.
Yeah,
I just think that "Do Your Thing, Cuz" line is perfect.
it's so good. I definitely agree. I love it for different reasons.
Yeah.
And what makes 2 really great is so different from what makes the first one great versus the 3D one makes it great. And
Yeah.
anyway,
but yeah, you know what? I want to change my answer to your answer. I did not like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre when I first saw it. I don't think I liked the franchise, but rewatching it through this show, I really, really like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I think it's got some real good elements.
You've also really discovered a real love. Hated John Lestrine over in the chat. A real love for all things Fast and Furious, haven't you?
Oh yeah, guys. Remember how I thought like that franchise was super boring and like dumb, and I didn't like the car crash part or any of it. And then I got to I had to do that Stockholm Syndrome style like binge watch where I just did all of them, and then I hit Fast 5 at 2 a.m. and then I just was like, this is the best movie I've ever seen in my life. And for like a good period of time, I really believed that it was the best movie I'd ever seen in my life was Fast 5. And I still think it's pretty high up there.
I absolutely agree. It's regardless of how you feel about certain genres or certain movies.
But these were all outside my genre. Like these were all outside the things I liked, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I love always finding a wonderful surprise such as that for sure. So
guys, I forgot what won the bracket.
What won the bracket? I believe
it Get Out?
It was Get Out.
That deserved to win. But we had some real issues with that bracket.
It was Get Out versus Spirited Away.
Okay, but Fast 5 was really high up there.
It was really high up there.
And I just want to put that out. So, because I think we should do this interestingly, this version of the next portion of our show, which is called, let me bring it up, is called Tell Me the Plot, which is that there are 2 versions of the plot of this movie. So how about I do the Donner Cut version, and then you fill in the Lester Cut version? Because I haven't seen that one, and I'm interested to know how they're different.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm gonna get mixed up with them now. I need to I need to refocus myself. Absolutely. You know what? And that's, since we are focusing on the Donner Cut, let's start with you in your 60 seconds.
Okay. You got a timer?
Let me whip out my timer real quick. Okay, you have 1 minute on the clock to impress me like no other. More so than you already do, my love.
I think I kind of remember it. Let's go. Ready?
Okay, you have 1 minute starting. Meow.
Okay, so you guys remember Zod and his 2 buddies from the first film's first scene? Okay, well, they're back, and they're here to take over the world, but they land on the moon first, and they think the planet's called Planet Houston. And it's Terrence Stamp, who is fabulous, and a girl with even more fabulous hair. Basically, so Superman decides that he needs to start cosplaying as Clark Kent full time, and he thinks for some reason, Lois, who has figured out that he's Superman and is like, I'm into it, wants him to be Clark Kent. And so he takes away all his powers. Then Zod and like his buddies attack, and of course they have all the powers. And his dad has been giving him messages the entire time, being like, "Don't take away your powers." So then his dad, when he comes back to the Fortress of Solitude, is like, "Fine, I'll give you back all your powers, but I'm going to disappear forever, whatever." So Superman comes, he's like fighting with them. He brings them to the Fortress of Solitude, courtesy of Lex Luthor, who's just like a little bitch in this movie. Gets rid of Miss Tackmark for the best part, and then like at the end, Superman does a switcheroo where he's like telling Gene Hackman, he's like, tell them to go in the thing, and then it's a reversal, and then they take their powers away and he puts them back in the thing.
Like, that is a million times better.
And then I'm going to add something, and then he reverses the flow of time again and makes it so all the events didn't happen. It feels like a real out.
It does. Oh, gosh.
Very important. He reverses the flow of time, but still goes back to the diner where some guy kicked the shit out of him when he was human, just to kick the shit out of the guy again, because he also did it while Superman. So that seems like a real petty bitch move to do, that you're like, I'm reversing time, so none of this ever happened, but I'm still going to go beat up that guy who I know likes to eat.
So it's just like really, it's really, really petty. And now after watching it,
I'm like, petty.
It is very, very petty.
I want to talk a lot about Superman's motivations in this movie. I am fascinated. Remember when I said last week that Superman was a boring character? I take it all back because of what happened in this movie. I want to know everything about what he thinks he's doing, why he's like so into cosplaying. Like, he's like, it's bonkers. Hey, girlies. He's like one of these guys who wants to, like, I don't know, cuck himself, if that's like the correct term. Like, he wants to be the beta guy in his own love triangle with himself and Lois Lane. It's fascinating. What happens in the Lester cut?
So in the Lester cut, I feel bad. It's like, I feel like it's weird because I feel like I don't want to mix them up. Okay, you got the timer ready to go?
Yeah. I don't think he turns back time. I know there's a kiss in that one. Hold on, let me get a timer.
Yeah, there's
and that kiss seems to make more sense in context because, like, whatever. Okay, hold on, let me put the thing up. Let's get 1 minute on the clock. I want to address what happens to Ned Beatty somewhere in this movie. Okay, go.
All right, so it starts off with Kristen. We find out General Zod, Ursa, and that other big dude. They are banished to a thing of glass. It's running through space. Somehow they get out from the Phantom Zone. They go to the moon. They're like, oh my gosh, Planet Houston. They're like, okay, we're gonna go to Earth. Clark Kent still work at the Daily Planet. Lois Lane is completely infatuated with him, and he's like the entire time like, yeah, totally, yeah. And somehow, to a certain extent, she kind of figures it out, but she tries to do a whole bunch of stuff, and they ended up going on an assignment to Paris, where there's an event goes on, and Lois tries to trick Clark into revealing himself, and he ends up like putting his hands on fire on accident. And he's like, oh shit. And he ends up revealing himself to her, and they end up getting down and dirty over at the Fortress of Solitude.
2 seconds.
And son of a bitch. And then
you spent the time talking about the parts I already talked about. Like, you keep going.
Lex Luthor, he pretty much wants to team up with General Zod towards the end, and
he does? Wait, Superman does?
Yeah, no, General Zod, he ends up, him and Lex Luthor, he's like, I want to get Australia if we team up.
Oh,
and
we need to talk about that part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I want to buy Australia, and he's like, nah, sure, bro, I don't even know what that is. What the fuck? And Clark Kent has this really interesting moment where he ends up having this interesting moment where he ends up like tricking Zod and all the people. He ends up losing powers. He gains his powers. He teams up with Lex for a minute. He does not go back in time, thankfully, but he eventually decides that he cannot have a relationship with Lois. And what does he do? He makes out with her, and he's like, and that's like the last kiss. They have sex once. That's the kiss.
And then she forgets about him, right?
Yeah.
Question. So here's my question. Mm-hmm. In that cut, did Zod destroy the office building where they work? And if so, like, where did they go back to work at the end? No. Okay. So there's no, that they don't destroy there. Okay.
No, they come and they arrive there, and there's a lot of dishevelment. Dishevelment.
Great
but
word.
The building is not in crumbles or anything by any means.
Okay.
It's just going to be a lot of cleaning. And
So does everyone else remember that it happened? So did she forget that like this, does she not even know that Zod happened? Like people at work are like, hey, remember this Zod attack? And she's like, who?
No, literally the conversation that like one of her last lines in the movie is after he kisses her and she's like, I feel like I'm missing something really, really important. And everyone's around her is like, huh, good one. And she's like,
Wait, does everyone else know that Clark Kent's
yeah.
Superman in this world?
No.
Oh my, no, okay. Okay, so there seems to be several things here. In both versions of this, Lex Luthor is still on about the fucking real estate deal. Like, he just cannot get away from, like, the smallest thing. He says that he can read the universe or the cosmos on the back of a bubblegum, like, wrapper, and yet he's meeting aliens from outer space, and all he can think about is how he now wants the continent of Australia. And then, I'm not sure if this is in the Lester cut, he then asks for Cuba after it's clear that they're going to kill him as soon as he, like, fulfills his part of the deal. He's like, okay, but what about Cuba? And you're like, why even Cuba? Like, why would Cuba and Australia, they're not even close to each other. That's like terrible real estate working. Lex Luthor, you dummy.
Something also I thought was kind of interesting is that
it's like a terrible game of Risk.
Well, absolutely. But I had a new understanding of Lex's relationship with his lady.
I told you, no, their relationship gets so good.
You're totally right. In the first time when we talked about the first one, you talked about how he likes the idea of her. Mm-hmm. He likes this. In this movie, at least in this version, I'm like,
oh, they're connecting. And it's only one scene. It's the scene where they're going to the Fortress of Solitude, and he goes, it's as funny as a guy trying to smile with no teeth. And he goes, and he tries to grin, and then she grins back at him. And in that moment, it is such a, I don't know how to describe it. It's like Timothée Chalamet. You don't know how to describe what it is. It's just fucking, it is it. They have it.
They have it.
They have the it factor.
And he has this where she's the one that breaks him out of prison, essentially. And they're like, okay, and he has like this like thing, and he's like, well, and he's like, I was thinking about going somewhere where I can wear a bikini, and he's like,
yeah, do you want to see me in the bikini? And he's like,
he has this kind of radio machine signal thingy. Okay, north this way. And
well, he was like, I would like to have seen you in a parka.
Yeah, and she's like, north is that way. And he's like,
yes, you're right. He goes, north is that way because she's fucking smarter than him.
I know. I was like,
it's kind of the Harley Quinn thing where it's just sort of like she's better than him and she's better off without him, and you kind of don't understand, except you do because abusive relationships are like a thing and we all get it. But like the annoying thing about her character, and maybe this is different in the Lester cut, she just disappears. And it's implied that maybe she tried to flush what she thought was a toilet at the Fortress of Solitude and ended up dying.
Yeah.
I don't know if she ever comes back, but it's my favorite character in the whole fucking series, and she just died off screen with a toilet flush joke.
That scene in particular, it's like they didn't know what to do with her.
Yeah.
At a certain point, and they just forgot.
Well, I wonder if they did forget, because Ned Beatty also has a very small role in it, and then he disappears. I was wondering in the other cut if that's like explained, that he like ditches them, or like, because he just wants to go off and be with Zod. He can't really take around the dead weight of like a girlfriend and like a best friend. So he just needs to like hang out by himself. I get that. But to not explain where they went is weird.
Yeah, she does. Their characters are definitely very limited, which hurt my heart just because I love their characters.
If they didn't care, why they put them in the movie? That doesn't
make it better. That doesn't make it better if they didn't care.
It doesn't make sense if they didn't care, because why put them in the movie then? Why not just have him like start afresh? Like they clearly were in the film for a reason, and they had this great moments between. The movie starts out with these great scenes with Gene Hackman and what's her name, Pierre something.
I wonder if this is true. They didn't come back for filming with Lester, because now behind the scenes,
that's right.
Yeah, we do know behind the scenes there was a lot going on. Some actors like Marlon Brando, apparently he has a good relationship.
He's not in like the Lester cut, right?
He's not a friend of Lester. He stood by his side, and there's a handful of actors that are in very similar situations.
But I only saw the Donner cut, so that still doesn't track, because I only saw the cut that was the original cut. So where the fuck did they go? And Ned Beatty comes back, right? Or am I crazy? Does Ned Beatty not come back for 3 or 4? Thought he did.
Who?
I know. Yeah, Hackman didn't come back either, and they used a lookalike
No.
several times. Oh, that's fascinating. But I'm talking about the Donner cut version, which does have all the original people. Marlon Brando, who hasn't gotten replaced yet. He's got a big thing. We'll get into what I think about that.
Apparently, the Marlon Brando stuff was actually supposedly it was actually all scenes that were shot from the first film, but they repurposed it for the second film.
Wasn't the first film shot, and first and second film were kind of shot simultaneously, and that was the whole thing. And then they did the reshoots for the lesser thing, and it was a whole deal. I want to know from the audience, the Eiffel Tower thing is different. Hey.
There's in this version there is no Eiffel Tower. They just go to Niagara Falls, and that's where the whole situation is. And
again, by the way, Lois Lane and Clark Kent being assigned stories that are not on their beat to pretend to be a married couple to go to Niagara Falls seems so out of character for a woman who was just sent to California to do the real estate beat. And then before that was like reporting on sex crimes and like sex rings and rape stories. And Clark, who I believe is just a generalist at the paper, to send them to Paris. The mind boggles about how much money the publishing industry used to have, I guess.
It's a very different time. It's also something I do kind of want to focus on. Okay, I do want to kind of shift the conversation from the plot to a little bit of the characters a little bit. I'm going to go and change this section over to...
Okay, but then I do want to get back to the plot because there's a lot of plot stuff.
Okay, well, yeah, we can still focus on the plot, particularly though. Okay, so in the Donner cut, we don't go to Paris. Paris was never a thing. They just stick to the whole interactions between Lois and Clark, where she tricks him essentially into revealing himself as Superman. That all happens in Niagara Falls in their hotel room, and there's like
which is great. It's the best scene.
And there's actually I absolutely agree with you. There's this really interesting scene in the hotel room
where
actually it's the idea behind it's actually the same, whereas in the Donner cut they're getting ready for a fancy dinner. She's in a towel and she's like shaving her legs and putting on her makeup,
and she's acting like she's so bored with. Here's the interesting thing about what she does. She doesn't act like she knows that he's Superman, but she's like, come on, tell me. But she acts like she's bored of him as Clark Kent. And she's like, until you reveal yourself as Superman, I am inherently uninterested in you as a human being. Like, I don't like this character. I don't like the shtick. I don't like this like weird, like little country farm boy routine. I want you to be the man who I like, which is Superman. Which is weird because the whole rest of the movie is him being like, I'm going to give up my powers just for you, babe, and just be regular Clark Kent. No one asked for that.
Weird. But she at one point where she's like, I know you are, and he's like, no, I'm not. You keep saying this shit, but I'm just not.
No.
I'm absolutely not. I'm right here. Yeah, but I'm not gonna. I thought it was actually a really interesting line that he used where he's like, I am not gonna be the man you want me to be, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a very interesting line, and
it's fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating because it implies that when he talks to his father, then he's like, I'm going to change to Clark Kent to be like what she wants. And like nobody is asking him to be Clark Kent except him. He is a selfish little Kal-El. He is a selfish Kal-El. Everyone wants Superman. No one wants Clark.
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh, he's so pretty.
He's so handsome. That's him. That's him the moment. I think that's him the moment of revelation. So what she does is she gets a gun. She points it at him because she's been doing crazy shit all movie. She's been throwing herself out of windows, trying to get himself to reveal. Yeah, exactly. So she points a gun at him, shoots it, and he immediately is like, you got me. He takes off the glass and he's like, you could have killed me if I was a regular dude. And she's like, not if there were blanks. And you're just like, oh shit. Oh shit. She's smarter than you, Superman. I thought you could read minds. What happened?
No, he can't read minds.
He said in the first movie he read her mind while she was thinking that song that it was supposed to be sung. He can read minds. It's just never brought into play again. Remember when she's being carried through the air and she's thinking of the song that they were supposed to get the rights to the actual song and they did, but for some reason they didn't want Margot Kidder to sing it, so she just spoke it out loud like that, like in her head, like spoken word poetry. It was really fucking weird. He can read her mind.
I don't remember that at all, but absolutely, it's a weird thing, but
He's so
at the
hot.
end of the day, these two scenes, they serve the same purpose.
Wait,
The
he trips on
Clark
something on
Kent.
the floor?
Mhm.
Wait,
Wait,
what happens in the Lester version?
hold up. Hold on.
He trips on
Yeah, okay.
something.
So I do wanna clarify. Okay, so in the Donner cut, like we said, she ends up shooting him using blanks, and he doesn't realize that. But in the Richard Lester cut, he ends up like tripping in. Okay, so they're entering into the honeymoon suite, remember? And
Yeah.
up in Niagara Falls. Okay, it's like there's fountain, there's
They're
like
still in Niagara? The
fireworks.
Niagara scenes happens, or is it in Paris?
Oh,
Same
so
place?
they're in Paris at the very, very beginning, but they
Okay.
come back and then they go to Niagara Falls. So
Weird how
in
they were on assignment a lot together. Go ahead.
it's really weird. But in the Rachel Laser cut, he's she at this point Lois pretty much tells Superman where she's like, I give up. I tried it. I tried tricking you into doing it, but you're not Superman, and I'm so sorry. I put you in this horrible situation. 2 seconds
Is she-
later, Superman literally trips over his feet. over
and then
in
how would that
the
reveal him Superman?
and no, and let me finish. And in the center of this honeymoon suite is this fire pit thingy
Is this a joke?
because it's the 80s, and it has like, and so he ends up getting his hands on the fire, and she's like, oh my gosh, Clark, and she realizes his hands were super fine, like nothing happened, where they
Pause.
could have.
In what world is Superman clumsy?
Exactly. That's actually the argument Richard Donner actually argued, saying Superman would never trip over his own feet. Are you
I guess
fucking
I guess
kidding
the
me?
implication is Superman in this movie is dealing with a lot of subconscious desire to become
Yeah.
Clark Kent, and
Yeah.
therefore he is embodying Clark a lot more. And so when she says, "I figured it out, you're not Superman," he in a
Mhm.
way like
Right.
subconsciously Freudian slip,
Mhm.
he slips over his feet and reveals himself to be Superman, but in a way that proves that he is actually also mostly Clark Kent because he's klutzy.
Yeah, I think I do know when doing the auditioning process for Clark Kent, they literally had many auditions where it's just being like, okay, walk down the street as Superman and see what happens. Now walk down the street as Clark Kent and let's see what happens. And it's hugely different. And and Christopher Reeve has such a unique ability to really transform himself physically you can where people would actually would is like stop him on the street, but when he changes himself into this version of Clark Kent, his everything about him changes. His body language, his face changes. In the comics, they talk about how the atoms, sort of like his physicality surrounding his face, it changes. So people don't visualize him the same way when
Yeah,
he's versus
it's
Clark
weird.
Kent.
It's
So
a it's a weird thing. They never in the comic. That's what's also weird in the comics. They never like show us the viewer reading the
Mhm.
panels that he looks different. So we're like, it's always been a hard thing. Christopher Reeve, in my mind, is the only person who's ever pulled off a this is plausibly another person.
Yeah. Mhm.
Also because he seems so conflicted that he like because this version of Superman so wants to be Clark Kent, like humble farm boy, dorky dude, that he's like angry and he's like he gets pissed whenever he has to prove that he's Superman. Like he's not going around saving the world because he wants to. Every time he shows up as Superman, it's because he has to, and he's being forced to do it. And he really would prefer to have his powers taken away and just live like a dude. And it makes I guess it's like a rebellious thing against his dad.
Mhm.
It feels very much like this is Kal-El's version of like, yeah, going to like Comic-Con or being like into steampunk or like having a furry persona. Like he just got way too into a scene, and the scene is he wants to cosplay as this dorky dude, and that's who he like, not to use jargon of the time that feels like a little bit off, but like that's who he self-identifies as. He self-identifies as a Clark Kent, not as a Superman, not as a Kyle. So he's like,
Which
stop trying to put me in a box.
Which actually I think is very unique how that changes very significantly towards the end of the movie, where he comes to the realization. Whereas in one version, the whole conflict where he decides to give up his powers, that happens in both versions. But what is I think really interesting about the Donner cut in particular is that there's so much more anguish and conflict
About
to
him becoming.
to be especially with the conversation between Jor-El and Superman, and that conversation where he's like, "You're really looking to give all this shit up after all
Yeah.
we've been through for you?"
Which is a very like that's like a very hero's
Yeah,
journey kind of arc you have with your
yeah,
dad.
and
Here's my conversation. This it's been explained in the movie that these are just recordings.
yeah.
Like these are not sentient programming, and yet like half because
Mhm.
that's with Gene Hackman, and yet at some point that just changes, and he's straight up like, I'm able to have a conversation with you. I'm able to predict, I guess, that you're going to try to give up your powers. I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to tell you not to do it. Then when you come back after regretting it because General Zod's going to come back, like the amount of predictive text that needed to go into these lessons that are just projections are nuts. And then he's like, by the way, if you get your powers back, which I know that you're going to try to do, because I know that you're going to have them taken away, why not just not create those powers being able to take away box? And
And
then
well,
why have a thing where you're like, I won't be able to talk to you anymore? I'm going
I
to use my
think
last powers.
well the reason I think that's because
Yeah.
Jor-El knew going into it is that he is in a very unique situation, and he's in a
I'm
very
here. I'm here.
unique situation where he knows his son is going to feel isolated, and he's not going to want to be an alien for a certain period of time. It's going to take him a while to learn to appreciate it, or
Yeah.
even where he might think to himself, this is not the priority. I cannot be the person you want me to be.
So
I
don't
can
tell him
only
about the
be who I am
box.
right now. And
Don't tell him
so
about the thingy.
well, that's the thing. Well, there's this idea, this theory that he had to. Jor-El knew he had to go through that process in order to appreciate it more. It's like if you already have your beautiful dogs, you have your beautiful dogs right there, right? They're so
So right
cute.
here, this Sammy,
But
she got a
suddenly,
haircut.
if they're taken away, and you're
No.
exactly. You're like, what the fuck? No, they're my dogs. Suddenly, you remember you appreciate them that much more when you finally reunite with them again.
Okay, so here's the thing. He was able to predict that, but not that Lex Luthor might show up and like play one of the
Um,
tapes. And not the fact that like I don't get the part where he's like, okay, you can have your powers back, but I'm gonna go away forever. And it's like, wait, you were here? There was a part of you that was actually here that wasn't just a pre-recorded segment? Like
it
that's
was
crazy.
no, it
Okay,
wasn't a pre-record. Thing is, the process of doing it requires so much energy. So
he's
that's
just
why.
but he's a pre-recorded segment. We hear that in the Gene Hackman parts, right?
It,
Like he's just recording.
it is just a recording, and apparently the way that's just the way it's.
You
That's
gotta accept
the
something
way
to face
it is
value, I
dimensions.
guess.
They mention it costs it takes so much energy in order to produce it, in order to keep it. They're the Fortress of Solitude or something like that. But once you do it in full, you're done. Like that's it. You can't do it anymore. And
Yeah, I gotcha. I just
there's
think,
this idea that he can't be he can't help him anymore after that.
well, I mean, again, like I hope that like Superman has a good memory recall because then he can just like his dad's books on tape will can just be remembered. The fact is, it goes from being like a pre-recording, like which is what like Gene Hackman hears. He even mentions it. He's like, "Oh, this thing's just like on a loop. Like this thing's just like giving me information and responding to certain questions." Because it's like Giles like that was a good question, son, and Gene Hackman's like, "Oh yeah, so I asked like a good question." So he knows it's like a pre-recording. And yet Superman, when it comes down to that dramatic conversations he has with his dad, it no longer seems like a recording. It seems like a straight up, these are like, it's a response in real time. And I wonder, like, is it like more explained maybe in Donner's original script that like there are recordings, but then there is actually a part of his father that can sometimes interact with him, and are they different things? I also just want to talk for a hot second about like our great and powerful Zod and his best friends Ursula and what is it like Buck or whatever it is. What's the third guy?
I feel like it starts with an N. Nugget.
Nugget is his best friend's name. Nugget.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I like the idea that they're all.
Is it known?
Nod. Anyway, I want to talk about how I like that they're best friends. I like that one of them's a general. I like their whole thing. I like their whole group dynamic. They seem like they've been trapped in this phantom zone forever, and you would think they would come out of this like with some friction, like there'd be some mutiny, like not they wouldn't all follow Zod or whatever. But Zod actually kind of seems like a cool boss. Like Zod is like he's to everyone else he's like kneel before Zod, but he's kind of, for a alien dictator who's gonna like take over the world. He is somewhat benevolent. Like he doesn't kill people if they kneel before him, and he will he will like spare the planet's life if he gets like the generals to kneel before him, and they all do. So like he only kills this one kid, and we kind of only see it from far away, or he orders this one guy to kill this one kid. But like if you do what he says, he'll let you live. And I don't know, there's something about these three that I'm kind of digging as a look, as a cool concept. I love her. I love how they're kind of curious about Earth, but like not enough. Like they plan a Houston thing, and they're like, "Oh, look how strong we are here! Like, look at all our powers." And they're like, snake, burn it with my eyeballs. Oh shit, I can burn shit with my eyeballs.
It's also funny that they don't have. They're also realizing that they have powers now, compared to say Man of Steel, where they also have Ursa, Nanan as well.
It is like
in that version, they have like these full body armored suit situations, and yes, that's 100%.
This is more like how we should see that Superman finds out he has powers. The way that they find out they have powers is much more like how the hero or protagonist of a story usually finds out they have powers by trial and error and being like, oh shit, like Snake, burn it. Like, oh, I have burn eye powers. Like, that's cool. Oh, like I can throw stuff far. Like, let's try that out. Oh, I can like do this and that. And it's like their journey, not Superman's.
Well, in this version, they have these powers and they're just like ecstatic. It's fun. I mean, like, and she's like, here, blow him a kiss.
Yeah, I don't know what the gender spectrum is over there, but like they definitely make her do chick stuff, and she's so badass that it kind of works. That she's just like owning it. She's like, I'll blow him a kiss, and then also like she's the one that's got like Lois Lane when they decide to like take like everyone else out, and Lois Lane's like, you bitch, and she punches her in the jaw, and the jaw makes a thud noise. It's like great Foley for like that time period.
He walks on water at one point. But in the Man of Steel version, they have these full-bodied suits and this whole situation, and that's the reason why they are in control of their powers. But once you take off the suits,
wait, what?
Like, oh my, it's overwhelming. I can't do this.
Wait, why wouldn't they just have the same power Superman has at the same rate? Like, is it? Because they have them too quickly?
Wait, okay. So in Man of Steel in particular, the reason why Superman has so much control of his powers is because he was raised on Earth and he learned to hone it in and control himself and be able to.
Oh, that's interesting. We never see that part of him. You
do in a few scenes in Man of Steel, like during a scene where he's apparently like it was like mentioned like when he was a baby, he would have a hard time breathing because he would be overwhelmed with the sensations, and so his mom.
Can I tell you something? Hard same. First time I've related to Superman.
What?
Hard same. Like sometimes I get too overwhelmed by breathing.
Yeah, that's true. But also, like when he was in grade school, he would be so overwhelmed by sensations of the sounds, and he would hear sirens, and he could hear all the kids in his classroom's heart beating and things like that. And he would freak out, and he would like lock himself into a utility room, and he would be like in first grade.
Am I Superman? Because you're just describing what my life experience is. It's too overwhelming to exist. And it's hard to breathe because all the sensations are too much.
It is. And actually, in that movie in particular, I've heard a lot of people talk about how it's very similar to growing up with mental illness or growing up with that feeling of anxiety, of that feeling of being overwhelmed.
I think it's just the feeling of growing up, right? Because that's puberty. That's a great puberty analogy.
It's very different for everyone. And it's versus General Zod and them. they come to Earth and they have the suits, and that is the only reason why they have any control over their powers is because of these suits. But
But
if
as
once
adults,
they're removed,
wouldn't you be able to, as adults, as opposed to being a child, adolescent, having all these feelings, just kind of be able to more quickly adapt to like overwhelming shit because
yeah,
you're an adult with who has like adult
absolutely.
feelings?
Absolutely, but you might not be able to adapt within a matter of hours.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You know what this is? This is like an X-Men. This is a very X-Men-y kind of analogy, which is like the powers are too strong, you Dark Phoenix it, you like end up like it consumes you like a
Mhm,
bright fire from the inside. I get it. I understand what it feels like to be all of those
mhm,
situations.
mhm.
I do love her more
Mm,
than anything. When I was getting my haircut, I was like 5 minutes away from just being like, can I just get this Superman 2 bad chick thing? Like, can you just do that? But then just add some white streaks so everyone thinks I steal dogs as well. Because I can rock short hair and she is fucking killing it. I
mhm.
want to get another close up of her. She's
She
killing it.
she also has
Slay.
like she has there's like this interesting kink factor to these
Yeah.
outfits that I'm
Is
like
she
really
fucking
into.
him? Sorry. Is
Like it's like the attitude, or the way she goes about it, and she's wearing something that's totally different from everyone around her, and then this uniform situation going on. And like you said, she is like given these more feminine things to do, like blow him a kiss, that kind of thing. You're
but
fighting a
she's
girl,
still dressed. But she's
but
still dressed like it's weird because she's still
mhm,
like has this short hair. She's still supposed to be sort of like it is
mhm,
implied that she is. Oh my god, I just found something that makes me very upset. Here, I'll send it to everybody. She is supposed to be like more manly or masculine. She's supposed to have the ability. You know, the way that her hair is, it's supposed to imply that
mhm,
she is she's a chick who's a badass or something. But
mhm.
here's something awful that I just found on the internet. Here, share screen. It's kind of a blurry
Okay.
picture, so bear with me. But this is apparently, you can see these are her boob. They put her in a real booby kind of dress.
Is this like no?
It's a
This
great dress, but it's
like which
really
like
a
is
real
this like
sexy.
a newer version of her?
No, this is her. It's just it's a blown out picture, but like this is a
No.
her. Uh, Here, I'll show you again from a different perspective. Hold on. Stop share screen like this. Bear with us, guys. I just need to show you how hot this chick is, but also how sexualized they ended up not making her. I guess so. Good on them. Oops, wrong thing. Oh god, I'm so bad at sharing screens. Yeah, they like. I guess like I don't have a problem with the way that she's portrayed. I think it's kind of cool, but I could
Mhm.
see how one
And
would. Okay,
well, see,
so
I
that's the
okay,
movie
so
thing.
I am yeah, you're totally right because I've seen several pictures because I'm gonna go ahead and pull these suckers up too.
Okay,
Let me pull them
she's
up.
so hot. Are they hooking up? Like her and Zod? Are they like having a thing?
I don't want. I have no clue.
I think she's
Um,
I think she's so hot. I cannot get over it. Like I think
I
that is
mean,
the
like,
hottest look.
oh wait, hold up.
Here, let me stop share screen. There we go.
Oh, here,
Oh
here.
no! What are you talking about? Oh no! Oh no! What?
Oh, it's probably the outfit.
No! Oh
Okay.
yeah! Oh no! What do you mean? Oh no! I think what you mean is oh yeah.
Oh no.
What you mean
Okay.
is hell yeah.
So you can see this where in this version she does have like some serious cleavage and everything going on, but she also has like she's a warrior. So I mean, you see her like wearing yeah,
There's no
she was
reason she can't be
probably
both. Yeah.
she's clearly sexy. She's owning it. She's like wham. There's
I can't
also
believe
some edge.
considering like I had very short hair as like a young girl and I was like sort of like on that weird thing where like I was masculine feminine. I had like a lot of things where I like looked like a boy from like the top up and then like a girl from the top down. Like and I really liked to play into that as a kid. Like I really had some like, gender fun. I don't know what you want to call it.
Mhm.
But I don't know why my parents didn't show me this movie and were like, "Hey, look, it's somebody for you to like look like, to idolize or whatever because she is totally like somebody that I would have obsessed over as a kid. She looks
Maybe they
exactly
didn't
like how
know.
I wanted to look as a kid.
Do you think so? Do you think they knew about this movie, or do you think your parents were
I
like
think
too
my
cool
parents
for
definitely
this
knew about
movie?
Superman too. I think probably they thought it was too normcore. Like they were like, just watch Rocky Horror Picture Show and get an idea of what's going on. Like my parents were like, I don't think they ever showed me Superman because they were not into. My dad was into comics, but I don't think they found Superman inherently interesting as like a character. I think, when did this movie come out? Like, I'm trying to think of my age.
I want to say 1980 or 81.
So I wasn't born yet when this movie came out. So I was 4 years after I was born. So by the time I was like, I mean, they still could have shown me it, and I'm kind of mad they didn't, because this is all like how I looked most of my 20s too. It's weird. Like most of my 20s was spent looking like this chick right here. Hold on. This was me at 20. That's just it.
Yeah.
I can find some pictures of me at 20 and show you. That's it. That's the whole Drew look at 20. 20 to 20, like 8.
I wish I was that cute when I was 20.
I mean, I wish I looked like me when I was 20. No, I don't. I have better cheekbones now, but she is slamming. I want to know if her and Zod have a thing. It must have gotten really lonely in their like weird ass dimension. I don't know that much about the Phantom Zone.
Phantom Zone, yeah.
Yeah, in the Phantom Zone, in the Lego Batman movie, which is my point of reference, guys, and also the Harley Quinn comic books, or Harley Quinn TV show, it kind of seems like the Phantom Zone is just like an alternate Earth with like less stuff in it, and like all the bad guys are there. In this movie, it's like, it's a 2-dimensional cube. It's just it's a square.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it looks like what they fight in Dune, when they put on their outfits in Dune and just become square things. It's like very wrinkle and timey. It's like they're tessering, and I think it's a cool thing. But like, you would think that they'd have gone mad by now and weren't into each other and didn't want to hang out, and there would have been like a thing where she was like, "No, dude, like you do, General Zod, like you're not as big as this other guy. Like we're gonna do our own thing."
I think this is. I have personally worked under people where I feel like I would have gone to the ends of the earth for them. And
yes, I guess that she's a zealot, yes, and it's an army thing. He's a general. There could be a chain,
And there's this real feeling that you are following a person. You're not following.
You're right. It's like a cult.
Exactly. It's not the whole military aspect. Well, sure, it is a military aspect for sure, but you like working specifically under that person's guidance.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember,
you believe in their ideology.
Exactly. It's like remember that movie The Rock? And
of course I remember the movie The Rock. Are you asking me if I remember the movie The Rock?
Character is literally has like all these like Marines and everything.
Yeah, but then they mutiny. The whole point is that one of them turns on him and is like, David Morse is like, I don't feel like obeying you anymore. And then him and like Dr. Cox from Scrubs like turn against him.
But they all like up until that one that ended up turning against them. Up until then, it was actually pretty cohesive. I mean, like a really solid unit overall.
The difference I think is General Ed Harris's whole thing was, he wasn't standing for an ideal belief system that is like, you should go with me because I want to like enact this change in the world. He was like, you should go with me because soldiers that have died, their families deserve to be compensated. And as other soldiers, you know that. Now, he brought on Tony Todd, who was a mercenary, and that whole group is like different. But like the chain of command there is just like David Morse. When Ed Harris is like, oh, wait, the people deserve to be compensated, but not at the cost of the lives of every man, woman, and child in San Francisco, David Morse is like, fuck it. Like, he's just like, fuck it. So it's not so much an ideology as it is what they called reparations. It's like he wants reparations, and I think that's an idea everyone can understand. So we all sympathize with Ed Harris's logic. General Zod, we never really know what his deal is, besides he wants to be the king ruler. We don't know why his ideas are different than like whoever's in charge of whatever.
Well, when we are introduced to his character in particular, we just know he is against Jor-El. His introduction in the movie is them.
He's against the whole place. Jor-El is just the one who has to make the deciding vote. He's against the whole thing.
Yes, but they have some kind of interaction, and I assume it's. I wonder if they could have been family, or if they could have been they worked together
No,
at
I think it's explained pretty. I think it's explained pretty well in that in the brief moments it is explained, which is like there's something that's not working on that planet because then as soon as they get rid of Zod, they're like Joel is like this planet's
No,
about to
absolutely.
explode, by the way, and they're like we're not listening to you. So clearly, the chain of command or whoever's king or ruler, they're not doing a good job to begin with. So I wonder if there was some sort of uprising where General Zod was like, this planet's about to blow up. You guys are all being dumb. I'm just going to take over and we're going to like all do what I say because at least that's consistent. And Jor-El, who you see he's saying, Jor-El, you have to make the final vote if you really want to cast me out, implying that Jor-El is somewhat conflicted about casting out Zod, which means that
Exactly.
Jor-El like knows that there's something wrong.
No, absolutely, absolutely. That's why I wonder if they have worked with each other in the past, or if there is some kind of real connection
I
there
think
that
they
they
just understand they're both smart, and the people running like their planet are dumb, dumb, dumb. Like they are not. That the
have.
sky is literally falling, and they refuse to recognize it. So I don't care how strong or great or wonderful their society is. They are like they banish Zod, but I want to hear some more about Zod's ideas because they are headed towards mass extinction the way they're going.
Well, thing is, in Man of Steel, okay, I definitely recommend us having an episode where we dive into Man of Steel.
Why do you love Man of Steel so much? Is that the Brad? Is that the
No,
which one is that?
I don't like Man of Steel.
Is that the Brandon Ralph one?
There's a lot more. There's a lot more focus on Zod in particular, and I think Zod is actually a really interesting character. And
Michael Shannon.
Oh yeah, I love me some Michael.
Oh my god, he's not to like be all Garth about it, but like I can drop some names. Like Michael Shannon used to hang out both at the bar I used to work at, but then also he was like friends in the like he came to our 25th anniversary party for the Observer, and everyone kept being like, "Is that Zod?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think that's Zod. He's weird. He has a weird thing going on and a band."
Well, so in Man of Steel in particular, I'm sorry I keep bringing it up, but
no, keep doing it.
The reason he comes in to Man of Steel, focuses on Man of Steel, his motivation is he wants to take over Earth because he wants to terraform it in order to recreate Krypton. So
so he's a good guy.
Yeah, so he's trying to rebirth his entire population.
He's at worst one tier down bad from Thanos, who again whose end goal, again, Thanos' end goal was for like the universe to not go extinct through overpopulation. And his methods were like unreasonable and like the 50% thing, the snap, whatever. But his end goal was to have everything not die out. And it seems like Zod's goal is very similar as far as we're given the information. Like he just does not want his people to die. How is that wrong? I can understand then why Jor-El was more conflicted.
Well, in this version, I do think that it's just more selfish reasons. It's more focused on anger. It's more focused on jealousy.
And he wants to be leader.
More than anything. There's
before he finds out
wanting to do anything in like terraform or bring back Krypton or anything in the Donna version.
Well, no. In the Donna version, it's really interesting because before he finds out that Jor-El's son is on the planet, he's just like, oh, like the police show up in this small town. He's like, take me to your leader. And they're like, oh, okay. And like he goes to the president, and the president, he's like, kneel before Zod. And he's like, okay, that was easy. So like he was just like, okay, so I guess now the place is mine. And he starts like you can almost see a different plot there where he's like, okay, so now what? What do we do now? Do we get the world leaders to bow? When they bow before Zod, what does that mean? What does a Zod rule actually look like? Is it maybe more egalitarian than we're led to believe? Or is it like some Trumpian dystopian nightmare?
He's a soldier. He's not he's a soldier, but he's not
a general. A general's different than just a soldier. A general leads.
But but generals, they serve, they're very goal specific. They have a mission, very particular mission when it comes to when it comes to going into battles, wars, whatever. When it comes to overseeing everything.
Zod is merciful, is all I'm saying. If he was like a battle time, if he was like as they say in Dark Knight Rises, if he was a wartime general, then he would just be executing the president, executing everyone. Nah, he's like he's not benevolent, but he's Machiavellian in that he understands you lead through showing mercy, but showing the weakness of your opponent. If your opponent kneels in front of the American public, then like you let everyone live, but it's clear who's boss. And then straight up, the dude is like, the president is like, don't worry, Superman's gonna come fix it. And you're like, that's exactly what's wrong with America, or I guess the world, which is like, Superman has come, I think, exactly 3 or 4 times to fix anything. And twice it's been to reverse the flow of time. So you guys don't even know about those instances.
Yeah.
Why are you assuming Superman even gives a shit? Like, Superman seems so uninterested in helping out, except in like highly specific instances that seem to rotate around Lois Lane.
And they're already so reliant on Superman.
Hey,
And
PLD.
it's not so much, I don't think they so much like, I'm really curious about this government world.
Wait, hold on 1 second. PLD's here. Do you think he heard us talking about The Rock and my thing about Ed Harris?
No.
No, he must have. Why else is PLD in the chat? He heard Ed Harris's name.
He's always there. He's always there. He doesn't sleep. The man does not sleep. But it's, I'm really kind of curious about, I'm really curious about this world or a government that would want to continue in a world with these high super aliens where they have these
race of super intelligent aliens. I feel like not to be like,
they're not super intelligent. No, there are aliens particularly
they
have
they're very dumb.
There was because that's a whole.
They are very weirdly. They are very stupid.
Some of them, yeah, but some of them are just totally normal. There was actually a TV show that came out a handful of years ago that actually had Vanessa Hudgens that was centered on an insurance agency that all they did was superhero and supervillain.
Oh, was that from Danny? Was Danny putting that from Community? Is that the one?
No clue. But it's a really interesting concept, right? I'm really curious about a government that is reliant on superheroes or villains.
I mean, yeah, look at the MCU. It's the whole thing about the MCU, about the idea of like the Sokovia Accords, or like the idea of like what role does the government have in the jurisdiction of creatures that have powers beyond us? Like, why should they even listen to us? Like, we're hoping that they're going to be like on the side of America. This is also addressed in Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, which is like, no, Superman, how dare you go to Africa and like meddle with their stuff? You're a citizen of the United States. You speak for America. And it's like, nah, he doesn't. Like, he's helping out America, but he can do whatever he wants, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do to stop him. You can put him on trial, but like, that's really banking on the idea that the Clark Kent has these morals that he's going to feel real bad about.
They really don't have to do anything they don't want to do.
The Sokovia Accords, you're banking on the idea that these superhumans have morals, and the issue with that is there's always going to be that one guy who doesn't, that supervillain who's like, fuck it. And then what are those peoples that are being constricted supposed to do?
Well, that really kind of begs the question. If we're going to go into the Sokovia Accords, I have thoughts. Okay, so on Iron Man's side, where they're focusing on, it's like, hey, we do need to keep ourselves in check, and we do need to be run ourselves by the government. Okay, that means being run by people with motivations, ambitions that change.
It's the UN, right? Before it's the GNC, it's the UN, which is what would be net. So it's a global interest. It's not just Americans. It's a global.
Absolutely, but that has a lot of individual interests where it's not always for the best.
Look,
versus having like a group of very powerful people that are just deciding for themselves what's worth it.
But what's the alternative? Tony Stark. Here's the problem. Tony Stark. We want to get into it. Tony Stark is a Elon Musk like libertarian capitalist, like to the extreme. I don't think Tony Stark should be allowed to do whatever he wants. In fact, it is exactly that in the events of Age of Ultron that lead to the Sokovia Accords being necessary in the first place. You could argue a Scarlet Witch as well, but like, it is all Tony Stark's fault. So for him to then turn around and be like, no, Captain America, the guy who's always done the right thing, obeys moral laws, and like has like the best interests of the world at heart. No, you gotta do what I say because I've suddenly decided to work with the government.
It's not so much Captain America. It's about who he is. Like, the thing is, it's not so much he doesn't tell Captain America that I question you in particular. I'm questioning in particular who you're representing, because at that point he is repping He is
He's defending
repping
Bucky.
Wanda, and yeah,
No,
he's a
Bucky. He's
Bucky, yeah, Bucky as well as Wanda, and he's like, dude, you
it's
can't.
it's less Wanda. It's
You're too
more that
powerful.
it's more the Bucky thing, and it's more the idea that like Bucky's a terrorist, and like honestly, what it is like Bucky's a terrorist, but like Captain America is like he's been framed, and becomes very clear as soon as he's bust out of prison by Zemo that like he was framed, and then Tony's whole motivation for that big airport locker fight is just sort of like I don't care. You still can't do because he doesn't know about it, the Bucky killing his parents yet. Like he's like, you still can't do stuff that the fucking Sokovia Accords say you can't do. And you're like,
Or it's like we went from Superman all the way to the Sokovia.
I'm just saying, like, if you want to go to Falcon Winter Soldier, there's this new thing, the GNC. I'm just saying why we would think that a group of like us would be able to control or even should be able to control a group of them. It's called Apex Predator for a reason, man. Like top of the food chain.
Like I would be the thing is I know I absolutely understand in retrospect the X-Men. I understand it's all symbolic of a lot of different things. It's referencing civil rights. It's representing the LGBTQ community. It's referencing the Holocaust. I understand that absolutely. And it makes sense in this beautiful comic book world. In the real world, if I found out there's a mutant out there that can literally crush the moon.
What would you do? Would you put him in jail? Yeah, but what would you do to him? Like, what would you be like, you have to obey my laws now? Why would you even dare bring your Judeo-Christianic like moral system to him? Just
like exactly, I would be like, no, I don't. No.
They always appeal to the morals, right?
You gotta kill this person.
Sokovia, the GNC or GRC, and let's bring it back, the Superman. The president there. They're all appealing to the idea of the humanity of these people, and it's like the idea that like Alfie Woodard's Alfie Woodard, Viola Davis. It's Alfie Woodard's characters like my son died because of the events of not Sokovia, the events that not Sokovia. I heard it was the Scarlet Witch thing in the beginning. It was like that African country. My son died there. Like you should feel bad. And Tony's like, oh shit, I do feel bad. Never really brought up that he should feel bad. As much as he's supposed to like blame Bucky for his parents' death, he never gets blamed for Wanda's parents' death, even though that's why her parents died, was his bombs. There's a lack of accountability. The point being that like we as a nation, as a world, and this does feel very realistic, decide the moment that we find something that is awe-inspiring, that is better than us, that is superior to anything we can do, our first instinct is to be like, but like, is Jesus supportive? Like, is this what Jesus would do? Like, we try to ascribe like these morals, these ethics of our people onto them and hope for the best, that they have some sort of, guidance system. In reality, most of them would be like General Zod and be like, fuck off.
But also, okay, if you were in that situation, if you were in Superman's shoes, where you have these awesome superpowers, where you were mocked and teased and isolated your entire life and abused.
Who mocked and teased Superman?
And as a child, he was like teased and made fun of quite a bit.
But I like that one kid, who thought he was Clark Kent.
I mean, it's like throughout high school and just throughout school in general. And you can see in every superhero, not every superhero, but in every Superman movie that I personally have seen, there's flashbacks of them being mocked as a child, or them being mocked as a child.
Yeah, I get you.
Or them because they're the whole idea is like, I cannot even try to fight back.
Right.
Because you literally kill this person. I wouldn't just punch him. I would literally just like punch right through his body.
It's an annoying. You go ahead.
But there's this idea that why should this alien, literally an alien that is God on Earth, literally give two shits about a bunch of assholes on Earth?
And this is what's annoying to me personally. It's because he was raised by good Christian values. They were instilled in him. And like also Jor-El is like, you should protect people, be a good person. But like this idea of like, Superman is good because he was raised good, nature versus nurture, as
Mhm.
opposed to a movie like, let's say, if you've seen Brightburn, which is like a dark version of that, or the movie Chronicle. Like, it's the idea that if you have shit parents, like, you will be a supervillain, and if you have
Mhm.
great parents, like, you will be a good person. And by great, I mean parents that tell you right from wrong. And
But
it's weird to me that that's
yeah,
like the thing. It implies this kind of like, it is kind of this biased thing that people who grew up orphans or grew up with shitty parents or were
or
abused.
with single parents or
Oh yeah,
anything or
yeah.
any
Look at
kind of
Killmonger.
unconventional.
Look
Oh,
at Killmonger.
absolutely. Any kind of unconventional family union is kind of looked at as an other
Yeah.
that that
If your
isn't
dad
that
was
not.
absent, if your dad didn't love you, this is why Tony Stark is the villain, because his parents, like, he had that issue with his dad. That's why like, hot take, Tony Stark is the villain of the entire MCU franchise because he thinks he is God. His relationship, his grudges with his like dead father propel so much going on. Where I believe this.
That's really frustrating. Yeah. So, okay, I feel bad. I keep bringing it to Man of Steel. Actually, now I kind of want to dive into Man of Steel sometime on the
I
show.
want to dive into Spider-Man being the only one it makes sense for because he's a kid, and when his dad tells him the one good piece of advice that is not moral, it's not ethical, it's just true. With great power comes great responsibility. That is not making a value judgment on that statement. It's just saying this is a true fact. When you
It was
get great power, the equal part of it is that you are now responsible for more things.
it
That's
was it
like
was
not in the
it was
Bible. That's
it was
not
his
in,
Uncle
yeah.
Ben. It was his Uncle Ben. Just heads up, Uncle
Sorry,
Ben.
what did I say? What did I say?
You said father.
Oh, I thought, yeah, Uncle Ben. I think
Uncle
that is the best version of this kind of scenario, is in that and Aunt May, which is like, it's just you learn from hearing these things once in a while, but it's not because you went to church or your parents were like, do this because like it God wants you to, or do this because like you're a
Mhm.
nice guy, because that leads to issues later on, especially if you end up conflicting with your father, as
Mhm.
Kal-El does with his
Mhm.
with Jor-El. Like, you will
Yeah.
eventually come into head-to-head butt with your father, and you will do the opposite of whatever he wants you to do, which in some cases means Breaking Bad.
Yeah, yeah, I mean overall I definitely agree. But I also think that that's one of the great things about Superman in particular is that Superman is good through and through, especially in this version. Now, there's a lot of comic book versions
He was
they
raised good.
where it is a Brightburn situation, or they are just like where they're just like they were abused as a child, or maybe they landed in a horribly abusive family, or maybe they landed
Yeah.
in Russia, where it's a very corrupt
There's one
country.
counterexample I can think of.
There's
There's
there's a
one.
lot of
There's one
different.
counterexample, and it's gonna be a good. I hope it's gonna be a good TV show. It's a comic called Jupiter. Not Jupiter Ascending. It's called NerdConk Helping Out. Jupiter. It's gonna star Win a Day with Tad Hamilton guy. In that one, there's like a superhero league that's running the world because they have powers, and all their kids rebel and become supervillains. And the one guy who's like was a supervillain during the original run has a kid who like has a daughter with one of the superheroes' daughters, and like he's the good guy, even though like he was raised, by a villain.
Jupiter Legacy. Jupiter Legacy.
Jupiter's Legacy. Yeah, he was raised as a villain, but he himself is a good person who cares about his son and is like the one of the heroes of the story. Whereas all the kids that were raised by superheroes turn on their parents and it's a bloodbath because they're just dicks. Like, that's the analogy I like to see more. Or like kids that were like Shazam, kids that were raised as orphans turning out to be good, not because their parents raised them good, not because they came from nuclear families. They're good because they are intrinsically good, not
Mhm.
because that they had because America
I
doesn't have a lot of like nuclear families to be like, that's the only time you can turn out as a
mhm.
good person.
Well, that's like I think if this movie, well, I really think that if it were made today, I think there would be more of an opportunity to have Clark Kent land in a maybe a less traditional family where
Yes, there is
it,
Red Sun, where he lands in Soviet Russia and he becomes a
mhm,
tool of the
yeah,
Russians,
mhm.
believes in
Yeah,
communists.
or,
And
or
there's
like
also one
yeah,
called there's one John Cleese from Monty Python wrote where he lands in London Like, it also depends on the country you land in. Every country has
Mhm.
different
There's North
ideologies, right?
Korea and Russia, yes. But
Imagine
the
landing in Germany.
yeah, or imagine landing in Nazi Germany.
That's what I'm saying. Or like, I guess, yeah, Falcon the Winter Soldier is the idea of the displacement, the refugees. Like, the idea of being radicalized is a very big part of these things. Going back to Superman, though,
Mhm.
do we think Superman is like a inherently good person? He's cosplaying as Clark Kent, who's a mild mannered. Let's be clear. He's a mild mannered reporter. I'm
Mhm.
not saying he's a good person. I don't know if he's a good person. He definitely is a white knight, but is he a good person? He
I
lies. He, like, he does all these things, like he purposely obfuscates like who he is. He purposely doesn't help when he can help because he doesn't want to give away his identity.
Mhm.
He has some pettiness, and if we go to if we go to Justice League, he's just straight like evil because unless Lois Lane's around to rein him in, he gives zero shits.
That's the whole conversation right there. But I honestly, in this interpretation, that's why I feel like Zack Snyder doesn't really like doesn't like Superman. So anyway, but in this version of Superman, I think he is at his core intrinsically good. That is very conflicted, just like any person. And he wants to have some things for himself, and that's why he is become he and every time he does prioritize his identity over saving a
Yes.
person or a situation or anything along those lines,
Yes.
it's just like any person.
He
People
chooses to cosplay without any powers for the rest of life, meaning he chooses to not be able to help anybody
because he
anyway.
wants to be normal, and I
So
get that.
that is the most incredibly selfish thing I've ever heard. You have the ability to save worlds, as you find out immediately
Mhm.
after, and you are choosing to be somebody
And
that,
but
hey, no one
also,
wants you to be.
mhm,
Nobody's asking you to be Clark Kent.
but also in that situation, being the alien that he is, it has given him nothing but painful memories. It is
When
what caught. It's the reason why his father died.
okay,
It
because
is
his dad has a heart attack, yeah,
yeah, remember during
but
that
like,
race. It is the reason why
he
he it's the reason why hasn't had friends. It is the reason why he hasn't been able to have any kind of real like romantic relationships. He is so jealous of people around him.
but
He's
he is, if he's Clark Kent and he's so, again, let's go with this idea, he self-identifies as Clark Kent, he so wants to be Clark Kent, it feels like he should have friends and he should be able to do all those things because he doesn't really have to be Superman except whenever he feels like it. He might have imposter syndrome, he might feel on the inside like, oh no, they don't know I have these powers, but he should be able to get close to whoever he wants. He should be able to, he might feel apart,
he,
but so do a lot of people that pass. So a lot of people with gender, who have, gender identity, issues, or like are dealing with, those kind of things. A lot of people feel like that, and yet they're still able to have friends and find a community and find people that support him. And I'm just wondering
he
why he
doesn't have a
thinks,
community though. He doesn't. He literally has no one else like him. He has no one else for guidance. He has no other support system other than his very human parents. One of them whom he killed, like you said.
okay, if he's
So he doesn't have anyone else to help him through have these conversations that are very
okay,
complicated, where he can if he literally
he
had
has
Joy.
Lois.
Yeah, but that's into adulthood, and she
Yeah,
doesn't care about him. She idealizes him the entire time. She put him on a pedestal, and she
he
only cares about him
he's
in terms of Superman. Not when
wait,
he's
wait.
Clark.
His mom was a pretty good guiding light. That she was pretty good
Mhm.
thing. I just think the thing is, no one has ever said, "Don't use your powers for good," and yet he thinks in some weird, messed up way. I don't even know if like he's justifying. He's tying
Mhm.
himself to knots, trying to justify why it's a better idea for the world not to have Superman. But it feels like he's just saying, I want to like be this guy that nobody else wants to be because I identify as this person, and fuck the world. Like, fuck everyone who like doesn't want me to be this guy. I want to be Clark Kent. Even
I
though she
wonder.
doesn't want him to be Clark Kent, the world doesn't want Clark Kent. Nobody wants Clark Kent.
Well, I wonder how much of that is possibly fear. Like he doesn't want to be noticed. He doesn't want to be the person out saving people. He doesn't want that
That's true.
pressure.
That's
He
true.
doesn't want the
But
attention, and he wants
doesn't
to
he
look.
love Lois?
He
He loves
does.
Lois. He can read. He can at least read Lois's mind to know that Lois is only into Superman. She's
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
She's actively annoyed by like his pretending to be
He's
Clark
not
Kent,
horny
which by the way
for
he's
yeah,
not.
he's not horny for Clark Kent. No, no.
She's
Mm-mm.
not. Well, especially when she figures it out, she's like, "This shtick is old, and you're not that good at it." It's like somebody trying on a fake British accent who shows up to work one day and is like, "Chip chip perio, I just came back from 2 weeks in Manchester," and you're like, "Oh my god, like enough." And he's like, "No, this is me now, and I'm gonna go into a box, and from now on, I'm gonna talk like this for you, darling." And you're like, I don't asking for this. I liked it when you flew me across the fucking sky. There's that scene afterwards in the Donner cut where they're driving from the Fortress of Solitude, like back home, and he's like, "Wow, seems a lot longer when you have to take a car." And she's just looking out the window, and she's like, "Yep,"
Mm-hmm.
because she doesn't like it. She's not into it. He did it, I think, out of a sense of, if anything, it seems like he didn't want the responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. He didn't want the responsibility.
No one wants that kind of responsibility. No one wants the responsibility to literally save every person at every
guess what?
moment. At all
Then
times.
just pretend to be Clark as many times as you want. Don't show up as Superman that often, as he doesn't. Like, no one's saying that he yeah.
But if he does that, like you said, he's a bad person and he's incredibly selfish.
Well, he's incredibly selfish. So his thing is to up. Okay, so what he's doing, you're saying, is he's recusing himself of being Superman. Those people will still die, but he'll feel like that blood isn't on my hands. It's still on his hands because he gave up the ability to be Superman, as we find out as soon as Zod shows up. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point, is like Zod shows up and Superman's like, "Oh, fuck, like I really need to be Superman for this."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a struggle. It's a real struggle.
I love talking about this. I want to talk about Gene Hackman again for a hot minute. There's a really cool thing at the end where Gene Hackman. So again, they've said he wants Australia. He like gives them what they want. They bring him president, and they're like, "Okay, great, you've served your purpose. We're gonna kill you." And he's like, "Aha! But I know where Superman's hideout is, and I know like where he is." And they're like, "Okay, what do you want?" And he's like, "Cuba." And they're like, "Great, we'll give you Cuba." And then like they show up to the Fortress of Solitude, and he's like, "Here's Superman," and they go, "Okay, kill Lex Luthor." And Lex Luthor's like, "What? Like I can't believe that's gonna happen." So then Superman takes Lex Luthor aside, and he goes, "All you need to do is trick them into thinking they need to get into this box, and that will take away their powers, and we'll all win, Lex." And Lex is like, "Gotcha." And he goes, "Hey, guess what? Superman just told me that, and these to the people that are going to murder him and never give him Cuba or Australia." He goes, "Superman's told me that you gotta go in the box." And he's like, "You fucking snitch." It's not even in his self-interest. It's very clear that Zod is going to kill him, like Lex Luthor. And he just still snitches on Superman. Again, talking about like lack of self-interest, just trying to be like a petty ass bitch. Like Lex Luthor is a troll, and he's not very good at like, he kind of reminds me of these people who just, it's not that he wants to see the world burn. It's not that he's smarter than anyone else. It's not like anything. It's just more like he's driven by, I think, the desire to like prove himself to somebody. And in Batman vs. Superman and Dawn of Justice becomes very clear Lex Luthor had a daddy thing. So it's like he wants to prove to like, you know, his dad that like, you know, he's his own man and he can do these things. Lex Luthor, this one, Gene Hackman, also kind of feels like that. He's like, "You don't own me. You don't control me. I'm going to go with whoever I want, even if it's at the cost of my own life because I'm being stupid."
Well, he's in the first one, there's a lot of conversations surrounding what he feels like he deserves. He's pissed.
Yeah, but he knows they're going to kill him.
The attention that he doesn't. He's like, I committed these crimes. I should be on the cover.
Yeah.
No, I see no articles about me. What the fuck?
But after the first time, Zod's like, "You've served your purpose. I'm going to kill you." wouldn't you then just be like, maybe I shouldn't trust this guy with more information? But he does, and he exchanges that information for Cuba. And then when Superman offers to save him, he goes, no, I want to go with that guy who's promised me Australia, Cuba, and instant murder.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if the idea is it's not so much that he still distrusts him, but it's more like I'm gonna buy myself more time. That's what I felt like a little bit.
Well, I mean, they haven't given him Cuba or Australia yet. They've made good on none of their promises, except the one where they are going to kill him when he runs out of usefulness. They do call him at one point. They're like, okay, Lex Luthor, King of Australia, and they kind of roll their eyes because they're like, first of all, they're like, what the fuck is Australia? Whatever. They see no use to him. He's kind of like a little in between. He's kind of like the Ned Beatty to them. It's weird that he would love them and not Superman, or throw his like money behind these people. But secondly, I think the bigger issue is that the way that Superman knows that Lex Luthor is going to like swap, and so like the whole thing is a double cross. So it turns out only being in the chamber is the only thing that saves you from the Krypton stuff. So all they lose their powers. And he's like, Lex, I knew you were going to pull some scummy move like that, because he can read minds. Now,
I didn't. Yeah, you're totally right. Where it's
why can't Zod read minds?
Like I don't. I kind of figured it was like they don't all have the same powers. They each have different powers, just like mutants in the Marvel universe, where you can guesstimate. You might have a few. You
got one thing or another.
The exact same.
It just sucks. Superman has so many powers that all seem like so strong that it seems it's almost too much. Like he can reverse time. He's so strong, blah, blah. But if he can also read minds.
He cannot reverse time. What he can do is spin really fast.
Yeah, I get it.
At that strength where he has the ability to do that by extension.
I think the reading mind things is a note that they hit once and then they forget about, and it's like really distracting to me, because like if he can read minds, he knows what's going on with Lex Luthor before he even walks into a room. If he can read minds, then like that changes the whole ball game and gives him a level of omnipotence. It's almost like Dr. Manhattan, like he's one step away from being able to see all of time simultaneously. And at that point, what is his weakness? Like where's the interesting conflict there? Like what is he even talking about? Because he can just reverse time by flying fast.
The big interesting part with him is where the conflict is that he gets bored easily, and he wants to create something else in his image because he is literally so fucking bored.
He's bored being Superman,
and he wants to
what it is? It's like being on call for a job that you're really good at, but like you don't want to do anymore, and you're just like, I wish I could just take like a fucking year off, and then COVID happens and you start getting antsy. But like what it is he's really good at being Superman, but he's like doesn't want to do it anymore. Like he wants to just fucking give it up. He doesn't want the great power or responsibility. It doesn't feel like it's something that he's interested in.
He's been critiqued nonstop. He's been told to leave the country, leave the planet.
Wait, in the original? Or
no.
Not in the original.
No. But it's like, he has been criticized in this version. But he has been criticized by newspapers and everything. But obviously, in like BVS and Man of Steel.
I also love how everyone's like, where's Superman to save us? Where is he? And it's like, yo guys, like, first of all, I think Lois Lane has written one article about Superman. We don't like know where he, and at some point someone goes, maybe he's just like off doing his own thing. And that's like, everyone's like, no, he has to, like as if he's like a machine that we have. Like, no, he doesn't have to.
What is that? Is that an ice cream sandwich?
It's an ice cream sandwich, yeah.
1 second, give me a minute.
Hey guys, your thoughts on this? Am I being totally crazy here? The whole cosplay element feels very like he has gotten way too into his avatar in like in a multiplayer game where he now only identifies as like Legolas, the fucking elf character that he plays, and like he does not want to be, Justin, who lives in his mom's basement, his mom's Patrick basement.
Ooh,
What's
I
that?
played. What's it? It's like, isn't it like
You know what
like
he
a
is though? Go ahead.
big anniversary of American Psycho coming up here pretty soon?
Oh, we need to do something about that.
Mm.
Here's the thing.
Mm.
Here's the thing.
Yes.
I will say, Clark Kent / Superman is
Mm.
the only real example of Captain America too, of a nice guy. Like a real nice guy, not like a Reddit nice guy, not like our nice guys, not like the nice guys of promising young women. Woman, it is him and I guess Spider-Man and Captain America are actual nice guys. Like they're good-hearted, intentioned people.
Wakanda, Mr. Black Panther himself.
Black Panther,
Mm-hmm.
slightly more complicated of a character because Black Panther's thing with I'm not sure, but his love interest has a power dynamic because he's king that does. I'm not saying that he's not a nice guy. I'm just saying it does create an unequal power dynamic that's a little bit. It's a little bit different. He's got the Dora Milaje, all this stuff. I'm just saying that, like, yes, he respects women and all that great stuff. I'm saying in terms of just pure, like, guy that would be totally cool if you were like, I just want to be friends, and he'd be like, I respect that, and I'll be friends with you forever, and like I will no hard feelings, and I'm not going to get angry or resentful or do this weird like you're cucking me thing. Like Clark Kent prefers to be cucked by Superman, and that's his true identity. I think he just is a nice guy who likes to respect women, and the same with Peter Parker. And the same with like who's Captain America.
Hold up, question. Was Superman a virgin up until Lois?
No, because there's like Lana. No, not Lana Lane. Wasn't there this whole Smallville thing about the people that he?
I don't count that shit.
I don't know if it would be like Twilight though, because in Justice League it's implied that Lois was pregnant, which means like his super seed can actually do something.
But
do you think he's horny?
Okay, so supposedly, that's a scene that's actually referencing. It's supposed to take like the kid. Apparently, it takes place like
way after.
Yeah, way after like 6 months.
No, like a couple years. It's like several years,
or maybe
2 years.
Whatever. But
it's different. It's not his kid.
That's not his kid. That's apparently Bruce Wayne's kid.
No, dude. Bruce Wayne's not fucking Lois Lane. Bruce Wayne's gonna fuck Wonder Woman. We never see Bruce Wayne and her interacting in any single way.
Bruce Wayne and Wonder Woman? No.
We talk about they're into each other. She's like, I like pilots. He knows who she is. That's the first guy since Steve Rogers who's been who she's found interesting. In what world does Lois Lane
do better
like the guy who killed her Superman? If anything, she still fucking blames him for killing him.
Wonder Woman can do better than Bruce Wayne.
Tell me what scene it is that convinces you that Bruce Wayne has any interest in Lois Lane or vice versa.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree with you. I don't see it at all. It was just like apparently that's what I've heard in interviews.
Oh shit! Right, Nerfconk's saying that. Mm-hmm. I mean, can I tell you something? That's why Bruce Wayne is not a nice guy. Bruce Wayne is the opposite. He is a Chad. He is a like seriously, like what a Chad. Like he's the richest dude in the room. $1 billion. He killed it. He kicked out his competition, and he's like, for no reason other than that was the Superman's girl. He's like, yeah, what's up? So he doesn't love her. By the way, Superman would have no time for a family or kids. He is selfish, dark, like disturbed.
He pulled like what's his face from Count of Monte Cristo. He pulled the asshole thing.
The only reason Superman would have a family, straight up, is to wait around until they get murdered like Captain Zemo style so he can avenge them. Only reason. Superman would be so bored I mean, sorry, as Batman was be Bruce Wayne.
That's stretching it. That is stretching it. They're not.
Are you kidding me? What does Bruce Wayne know about being part of a family, raising a family, anything? He has a butler, and his parents were murdered, and he's fueled by vengeance. He keeps his own hours. We never see him be able to exist in a familial unit. All he wants to do is his own thing, his own way. I feel like he'd be a really kind of abusive dad. We see that with the Robin dynamic.
It's actually funny you say that because he's actually a really great father figure. Because
I don't know what comic books you've been reading. No, he is incredibly abused. One of his Robins dies. He gets one of them killed.
No, absolutely. No, thing is, I'm not gonna spark on that. Thing is, he does like pretty much adopt these separately. Dick Grayson, his son Damien, he doesn't find out.
You know why?
Until like 14.
Because they're useful. They're good at acrobatics and stuff. He grooms kids that can be his Robin. He doesn't do it because out of love. He does it because he's like there.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, some of these kids were going down a bad path altogether, and he's like, I see you're doing some really bad shit, and you're going to join the Red Circus crew. I might as well teach you to come hang out with me. And
it's really less about. Now, I'm going to be honest. It's really less about what he thinks about the kids and more about him needing someone that can fit this right thing. And then when one of them gets killed because of Batman's own negligence, because he pushes them too far and allows him to do something he shouldn't.
They were adults. They were not children.
Was that? Let's have the audience. Was that one? Not Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson, depending on which version you.
No, the one who died.
Yeah, he was an adult.
Adult raised as a ward of a guy whose entire life. Talk about nature versus nurture. A guy whose entire thing has been like, your worth to me is that of how good you are at fighting.
I
Tell me what fondness. Tell me what parental wisdom. Tell me what Thomas Wayne thing he has inside of him that he imparts to Grayson besides just making him his ward.
All right, I'm going to tell you a story.
Advice.
Okay. I'm going to tell you a story. This young woman, this fresh red-haired girl who's 14, maybe 15 years old. She is a former gymnastics champion, and she is going down a very dark path. She starts hanging out with a bunch of like the Harlequin people and that whole group and everything. I can't remember. Yes, he was. Okay, there you go. Absolutely. Thank you for correcting me there, Eric. And she ends up pretty much stalking him. She's like, hey, I do a bunch of shit, and she's like, and Batman's like, dude, girl, sweetie, you're 14, 15 years old. Go home. I'm fighting crime. I don't even want you to get hurt. And he like protects her a whole bunch of times. And he's like, seriously, you need to go home. I'm doing dangerous shit over here. I'm solving crime. Nice. Go away. And she comes hunting for him, and he's like, it gets to a point where he's like, after a whole bunch of times, he's like, oh, fine, if you come with me, I can at least guarantee to a certain extent you're going to be safe. You just have to be out of the way, and if you're doing something, you're going to be safe about it. Because otherwise, I know for a fact you're going to go to these horrible places, and you're going to.
Are you talking about the Frank Miller one, the one that like the Dark Knight Frank Miller thing, where Robin becomes a chick, and it's a really older Batman, and at that point he's kind of like, yeah, I shouldn't be putting children in harm's way. I mean,
she ends up becoming. She's actually from. After doing more research from her, he finds out that she's from a very abusive family, and he pretty much buys her from her parents.
That's cool.
And he's like literally, and he's like, I'll adopt her, and I'll take her, and I'll make sure she's put in a good school and everything. And meanwhile, the parents are like drug addicts, and they're horribly abusive. And
wow, as opposed to the guy who puts you through training and keeps you in a Batcave.
It was like he doesn't actually have, and he's like, I'll train you, but meanwhile they're just like lifting weights and doing acrobats, and he's like teaching them how to, and he's teaching them how to like.
You ever see I, Tonya? He is an I, Tonya parent.
No, but he's not. He's not abusive or anything like that. He's
my god.
At least in this story in particular, he's he's never mean unless the kids do need a talking to. He is never
Oh my god.
he is direct, he is abrupt, but he is never
Okay.
awful. He's never
Um,
cruel.
the things that he
I think
puts
that's
this
one of the big
kid
differences.
through, because he needs to make the kid as strong as he is. So the things that usually not in the Batman and Robin, like the Joel Schumacher thing,
Mhm.
or sorry, the one who did Batman and Robin, not in that sanitized version. In almost every other version of Batman and Robin from the comic books, it is literally like he will create conditions that mimic the. Remember, so Dick Grayson, his parents were murdered right in front of him, right in
Mhm.
front of him.
Yeah.
Atman chooses him. He grooms him because he's like,
He
you can do
doesn't
gymnastics and you're as angry as I am. And he literally sensory deprives him. And
he
he
doesn't
horrifies him.
choose him. He doesn't choose him. Dick Grayson, his parents die, and he ends up becoming an orphan at the orphanage that he ends up sponsoring.
Yeah,
And they come across each other that way, but he doesn't seek him out because he's like, I've heard your parents died in front of you, like me. Which
I'm
is,
just saying. I'm just saying that I don't think Batman is a good parental figure. I think Batman's priorities are not to protect the kid. Batman's priorities are to like have another vigilante that can take over his mantle. And when he cycles through them, there's Darkwing, whatever. I'm hearing All Star Batman is not the best defense. I don't understand why, because that to me is exactly what he does to people.
Mhm.
He doesn't adopt kids out of the kindness of his heart. He adopts kids who come from fucked up
Yeah.
backgrounds and who have skill sets that he can like use.
Yeah, you're totally right. That happens quite a bit in his stories where he ends up
Does,
like sponsoring kids. There's a lot of kids that go through his
does
orphanage.
anyone have special needs? Like, is there anybody who can't just be of service to Batman? Like, no, he doesn't do it out
The
of
Oracle,
generosity.
the
What?
Oracle, who's literally paralyzed from the waist down.
Yeah, but she has a purpose, right? She can. Well, first of all, that's Barbara Gordon. He doesn't
Yeah.
adopt her.
Mhm.
That's just a girl that he liked until she was paralyzed from the waist down, and then now helps him out. That was his love interest until she
No,
got
she doesn't
paralyzed.
just help him out. Oh my gosh, she is
I'm
the
just saying that was a love interest until she was no
she
longer
no,
able to walk.
she was not a love interest. He trained her.
Barbara Gordon was not a love interest to Batman.
What are you She was a child.
Barbara
Wait,
Gordon.
no, okay, so there have been interpretations like the Killing Joke, which I really do not like, where they end up like having sex and everything, and which really frustrated me because I'm like, this served.
Yeah, Barbara
But
Gordon is
Killing Joke is
Batgirl.
good.
She definitely gets fucked
Be-
hard by
she
Batman.
the one that I read with Barbara Gordon in particular, she's a lesbian and she's not attracted to Batman at all.
Okay. I think this is kind of getting off topic here.
Yes,
I
you're getting
think
very, very
maybe
off.
I think the difference is, if I can drive it back here, Batman's motivations for all his relationships with people is entirely transactional. Like, and there's always an element of transactional. He never just does anything out of the kindness of his heart. He does things because the people are of use to him. Whereas Superman's just fallen in love with this one girl, and it doesn't matter like what she can do or not do. He just wants to become human. He wants to give up all his powers just to be in love with her. Even if that's not even like her love that she'll love him back, it's just his love to give. Like, I think in a way, like, and that's the whole save Martha thing. And Batman's like, why'd you say her name? He said her name at the end when he thought he was dying, because his last thought was not of like, who's going to like take over my mantle? Who can like, where's the next Superman? How am I going to like, where's justice going to be served? He's thinking about his mom and who's going to protect her. Batman's got one of his wards killed as a teenager.
And also, by extension, it's actually funny you say that, because when you say, who's going to protect my mom, my first thought was, to a certain extent, he feels like it's his mom that's still protecting him. Just like, and I mean, like, yeah, it's just that feeling of that he still feels like, to a certain extent, like a child.
Well, here's the thing: no matter what interpretation you want to see, when Superman's dad died, It might have been Superman's culpability in some respects. His dad asked him not to save him in some of them. But Superman doesn't believe that his dad died because the injustices of what man did. And so Superman doesn't believe that his dad's death is on him, or that it's personally his responsibility to go track down and hurt people because his dad and mom died. Whereas Batman, he took all those feelings he had about his parents and just channeled it into like vengeance. It is literally, he's a rich man, an individual capitalist who is fueled by vengeance. He even in that way is worse than Tony Stark, who's just fueled by like daddy issues.
Very, very, very different. I love Batman, the Batman origin story. I love a lot of the Batman individual different stories and everything so much, and it's how different he is from Superman. But I also think that that's what makes their combination so unique, and that what makes BVS so hurtful.
Oh, hey, by the way, Cinema Gorilla, thank you so much for joining. I do have one last thing to say about the Superman Batman dynamic. It is Frank Miller's the thing the Dark Knight was based on, which is in this scenario where Superman is actually working on the bad guy side, the American government, and it's against Batman, who's like the vigilante, crazy Frank Miller version. And it's because they have his planet, they have Krypton under a bubble. So Superman will do what is necessary, almost in a very Zod-like manner, to save his people. Because he is salvation first, whereas Batman is vengeance first. That's what I would say.
All right.
And yet, for some reason, Batman's so much more interesting than Superman. Hey guys, what do you think about that? What do you guys think about who's cooler? Who would you most like to hang out with? And also, who's like a better person? I guess, as if that's like a relevant conversation.
Actually, I think that's a very relevant conversation, you guys. Please tweet at us #CinemaBias on who you think is like superhero or comic book character wise. Which one is the best person?
Oh wait! I got a twist on that. I want you to take the superheroes, all of them as we know, MCU, DC, blah, blah. Which one of all these ones? Like we'll do the faces. We'll do Superman. We'll do Tony Stark. We'll do Batman. Which one of these is actually the villain? Out of all of them, yeah, because there's villains in there. Which one is the villain? Like, I think there's an argument to be made. Superman is the villain in the Zack Snyder world. I think there's an argument to be made that Batman is the villain in a lot of these. I think there's an argument to be made that Tony Stark is the villain. I want to hear from you. In what scenario, if you came in from like another planet, if you were just a neutral observer, if you were one of those guardians or whatever they're called, the Watchers, who is the actual villain of this universe, of these universes? I have some thoughts. I want to hear from you guys. Alex, this has been a great episode. I'm sorry I had to go off so hard, but I loved this movie. I loved all the issues it brought up. I love the fact that I now know things about it. I love that moment of Gene Hackman and her on the mountain, Miss Tessmacher. I can never say her name. Miss Tessmacher. The moment, it's just so cute. I'm going to bring up a photo of it as we go out. But that just shows you why sometimes villains seem like the more attractive and the more interesting characters. Superman to no teeth joke. Here is the most beautiful, intimate moment. Let's see, Lex Luthor of any Superman. It's so much closer than we ever see. Let's see, smile. Let's see that we've seen from a character in this. This is the most romantic moment. It's in here. Hold on. It's like a smile with a man with no teeth. Here we go. These are the cutest couple that you can find in the entire, I think, Superman universe. And I'm in love with them. And I wish we found out what happened to them. Hold on. Here we go. Bring it up. And then I'm going to say it, relationship goals. Even though he's kind of an abusive dick, I think that there is a moment here where you understand exactly why these two are with each other. That is an image to me of two people very much in love who are like in awe. They're like in a moment where they're in awe.
They're so cute together. Oh my god.
Yeah.
What could have been honestly, what could have been? I just want like a baller supervillain couple.
Well,
I
yeah, I
really
mean, like, I want her to realize that she's better than
no
him,
more
but I also want her to realize that, like, she's got that Harley Quinn thing where she just thinks has to be the follower. I would love it if, like,
oh no,
she just
she
realized that,
does.
like, they're equal.
She lets him lead.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. She lets him think he's smart. The smartest thing she ever said was in Superman 1, where she goes, "Lex, why do so many people have to die for the crime of the century?"
Oh, that just
You're like,
hurt.
"Oh yeah."
Yeah. Speaking of which, guys, we are going to be wrapping things up here shortly. So, if you have any questions, comments, we just would love to know your thoughts. We're going to be wrapping it up here in just a few minutes. Up until then, we do want to let you know next Tuesday, we're not entirely sure what we're going to be covering. However,
Oh, we have somebody, right?
yeah, we do have definitely a confirmed guest, and he is one of the guys from the Cinefanatics named Robert Adams. So I'm pretty excited to have him on. He is amazing. He helps us with our thumbnails and all this really amazing stuff over here. So we're super excited to chat with him. A movie. Maybe it's going to be a Star Wars movie. And
Something Star Wars related. I'm just gonna put it out
there.
there. I've never seen all of Rogue One. I'm just gonna put that out there.
My favorite Star Wars movie. That doesn't
So,
say much.
Wait, in the other movies, does Kevin Spacey have a love interest?
And wait, sorry, in Superman Returns?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's Kitty. Kitty played by
the Parker Posey. I gotcha.
Yeah, Parker Posey. Mm-hmm.
Is there one in the Jesse Eisenberg as Max Landis one?
I don't remember, to be honest. Okay. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Okay. I'm interested, guys. I hope you had fun tonight. There's a lot going on here. We're gonna get back to our regular scheduled programming. I swear, I promise, very soon. But thank you so much, Alex, for doing this with me. Like I said last week, this is the only time of the week where I get to actually discuss movies instead of just memorize data points about it. So I really love doing this. Where can we find you?
You can find me right up there at real_AlexMack. You can on Twitter. You can also find me being part of the Call Action Podcast, where I do a whole bunch of awesome stuff over there. And yeah, it's a guaranteed fun ass time. Yes.
Wait, do you have anything coming up? Do you have like a Schmobates or a?
Well, I'm actually in the process of booking, but it's actually very difficult to book people, right? Rookies right now. I'm actually going to be having a Schmobate Rookies tournament.
I love that.
So,
who you should get?
With nothing but rookies competing. So
Paige and Peggy are like my two.
I message Paige. We have her on the docket. Sorry, Peggy. I have her on the docket. Paige has not responded to my DM.
I will hit her up about that. Kim Taylor Robinson also. I just think she seems awesome. I've been reading her. Kim Taylor. Kim, whatever.
I would love to have her on, but I know she's on UK time, so.
And also, I'll give you these ideas afterwards. But there are some people that really impressed me in the free for all, whose personalities I just thought shone through. Like, I think that Griffin Newman guy. I know he's famous and all, but he seems great. Or Griffin Dunn? No, Griffin Newman. He seems great, hilarious, great addition to the thing. You know that he was the first guy to publicly say, I will, like, he was in a Woody Allen movie and he was the first one to publicly break from it. It was in the Woody Allen doc that he was like, I'm gonna like take my name off of this. I'm gonna donate all the money and I want nothing to do with him ever again. He was the first actor to ever claim that. And that's fucking dope. That makes me like him so much.
That's hot.
Yeah, that's like one of the hottest things I've ever heard. Like before anyone else was doing it, before Scarlett, before anybody, he was like, no, this is fucked up. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I'm donating this money to like survivors, and I'm publicly announcing that like Woody Allen is the worst person in the world, and good for him. So, yeah, well done, man. Okay, so I am at VIDEODREW. It is one word. There's a lot going on with me lately, guys. Not sure if you heard, but tomorrow I'm going to be playing Marisol Statue of Liberty McKee in like a battlefield like match as the undercard starting at 5 p.m. for this Schmodown pay-per-view. Please buy your tickets. Come support me as I don't know. Is she like a judge? I know we've had her on the show before, but I feel like this is gonna be a My Cousin Vinny situation because
She,
I don't know what
she's
she's
a
bringing
Statue
me
of
into court
Liberty.
for.
She's a
She's got
Statue
like
of Liberty. Come
she's
on.
the Statue of Liberty. She's the wrong color. She's got like the thing, and I know what it's like to have to show up in court when you're like not in the mood, and I don't know what the charges are. So expect a lot of My Cousin Vinnyisms tomorrow. And then I have so after I kind of beat these charges, I have on the May 14th. It's just been announced. I will be playing in a horror exhibition match. Now, what do you think my chances are? It's me, William Bibiani, and Adam Collins. So it's like the two people that people really want to see head to head go after horror, and then Videodrew's there. But Robert Kirkman will be on the desk for this match. It is a skybound thing. It's going to be huge. Who knows? And at any given day, Drew can become magical and win everything. So that sounds like fun. I'm just so excited to be at these two. I hope every question is a David Lynch question because there's nobody I want to go head to head with more about David Lynch than Adam Collins and William Bibiani. So that's exciting. That's coming up. And if I beat Marisol, then I play Janine. If I beat Janine, I play the guy who directed the movie Tusk. Have you heard of this guy? Kevin Smith? Kevin Smoth? Kevin Smith. He directed a couple things. He directed Tusk. God bless you. So that's cool. If I win 2 more matches, I get to play the Tusk guy.
Hold on. Was that a Dogma reference just now?
A what?
A Dogma reference?
No, it was a reference to the fact that he directed the movie Tusk.
Well, I was going to say, because also in Dogma, which he also directed and wrote, obviously. And
oh, really? I don't know what that is.
There's a scene with Loki and Bartleby where they're going into like a board meeting, and he sneezed on purpose, waiting for someone to say bless you, and no one did, and he's like, now I can kill everyone.
Wait, so bless you. No, that was not a reference to that. That was a reference to the fact that Videodrew only thinks that Kevin Smoth has made one movie, and it is Tusk, and that's the only thing that she knows him from. And she's like, I got to play the Tusk director, so that's funny. Gotta love that bit.
Oh, even better, he's that he's that director that has monsters coming out of random high schoolers' butts.
And Dogma, yeah. I'm gonna be like, I think he's produced. I think Red State too. I'm just gonna make all the horror movies. I'm gonna be like, oh my god, does he know Ben Affleck, or like does he know? Oh my god, does this guy know like somebody who's in a horror movie? Like I'm just gonna play that. He knows Bruce Willis from The Sixth Sense. That guy's that's crazy. I wonder if he can introduce me.
Tracy Morgan.
Oh my god, Kevin Smith from Tusk.
Howie Mandel from Little Monsters.
Do you think that he could introduce me to Justin Long, and who could introduce me to Sam Raimi because they were in that Drag Me to Hell movie? I mean, I don't know how much connections Kevin Smoth has, but like that'd be awesome. But first I have to beat Marisol, which is going to be hard because if you've seen Ghostbusters 2, you need like some sort of goo, and you need to be able to like, move her around. And I don't know what's in her head, probably France or something. It's just going to be a hard uphill battle, but I believe I'll be found innocent of all charges. And then I get to play Janine the Machine, who I've once played before. And as long as she hasn't updated her software, then I get to play Kevin Smoth. And if I play Kevin Smoth, guess what? I get to play another match for the belt. And I guess if I get the belt, that means that I win forever. No, JK, that means I just get to play more harder and harder opponents until I die. So I don't know what the end game is here because I own 0 belts. It would be nice to own 1. But that's definitely not why I entered in the Schmodown. This whole thing's ridiculous, and I love it so much. And I wish I wasn't spending every waking moment like acting like this is the most important thing, but it is to me because I love you all so much, and I love being part of this community. So check me out. Check out my Patreon. We do a lot of study sessions. Check out, become a patron. Check out our shows. We're going to get back to regular scheduled programming on maybe not next Monday because that's gonna be the show, but like pretty soon. Monday and Thursdays is Video Chronic Pop Culture Quizzes. At a certain Patreon tier, you can request a quiz, 20 questions, deep delve, contextual style questions about one movie or franchise. Then on Tuesdays, Cinema Bias, 8 p.m. Then on Wednesdays, study sessions. Thursdays, again, we do Video Chronic. Fridays, it's my off day. Give me one. Saturdays, we do another study sessions. And Sunday, we're bringing back Live in the Dark with VIDEODREW. It's a show where I'm in character. And the lines are blurry these days, but we have guests. It's like Space Ghost. And it's like Between Two Ferns, but more awkward. So get ready for that. I'll see you guys all hopefully tomorrow for the pay-per-view. If I cry on air, it's all kayfabe. So that's cool. And go see my movie. It's coming out May 28th, starring, I think, Emma Stone and Emma Thompson. And it's about my rise to power as a fashionista in London's world. I think Paul Walker Hauser's also in it. It's about me and my doggies. Go see it. Hashtag Jarella DeVille. Okay. We love you all. That's no longer weird for me to say because I just do. Good night, guys.